Okay, welcome to the EEG podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Today we have episode 5 of the EEG podcast, and we have 4 of the leaders of Everglades Equipment Group, a few of the owners of Everglades Equipment Group, of a family-owned business, which we are. But I want to go around and let everybody introduce themselves because we actually have the Uncle Tom from last episode in the house today. We're gonna start with Uncle Tom just to get this cleared up. So, Uncle Tom, who are you?
Obviously, I'm Uncle Tom, and hand the stand round calls me Uncle Tom. Started by my nephews. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Yes, but Uncle Tom, and you'll see, I'll call him Uncle Tom, Uncle Bill, Mike, my father, and David Lively. Just so we get some clarity here, they are the third generation of Everglades Equipment Group. You call them fourth, the third generation, and they are the current owners of Everglades Equipment Group. So it's going to
along with
the man you heard from in episode 1, John Schlechter,
and most important,
Eleanor,
his wife.
His wife.
That is correct. My mommy and their mommy.
That's right. So we got Bill Schlechter.
Yes, Bill Selectum, current owner, third generation. That's all I had to say. Keep it short.
That's a solid intro.
Oh,
And then Mike.
so Mike Schlechter, I am just for clarification, the third son. Bill is the second son. Tom is the baby, and most times acts like the baby of the I'm sorry, of the Tom.
Just out the youngest and the best looking.
That is true.
Can't rub the baby thing out.
No gray hair. No gray hair.
Calling him Uncle Tom?
I know I'm if that's his name, that's what we're going to call it. So anyway,
I don't call my little brother Uncle Jonathan.
well, that's good to know, Dave. Good to know.
So I have to interject. Can we all get clarification? Because it's been 5 episodes. So why does Bo call his dad by his first name?
Well, I don't know. It's really because he called his dad by his first name.
That is probably true.
That is a working relationship. I feel like, hey, more weird for Bo to call him dad all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, mine would call Uncle Bill, Uncle Tom. Then
Uncle Bill's always had a problem with this. Like, I call him Uncle Bill. I don't know.
What do you call your dad when you're at his house?
Daddy.
could you say that again?
Wow. Promise me you never start a abbreviate mine to call me UT.
Yeah, well, I'll try on
Infection or something.
I like Uncle Tom.
Okay.
I like that. I mean, actually, sometimes I call him Tom and Bill. And then Big Dave. So it's Big Dave's turn. Go ahead, Big Dave.
You never call me daddy.
No, I shall.
Yes.
This is going to be a long intro.
Even though you would like that. Even though
I don't
you
know.
would.
I don't know if
I think you would.
So,
You would think he's asking for something like some form of financial.
Just I wouldn't like it.
yeah. So we got David here. And David, who are you?
So I'm David Lively. I've been with Everglades for 22 years. It was actually the first real job I had graduating from college, and
That's not true.
real job, I said. I had a real.
Your other one was a real job.
Well, you could argue I had real jobs.
I think it had career,
Yes.
what you were looking for, but
Yeah.
it was a job.
So I started here when I was 24. Actually 23. 23. I'm 45 now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
we're not doing ages, right?
No, we are not.
So
Yep. Well, that's awesome. So these guys are all from Belglade, Florida, born and raised in Belglade. And if you listen to episode 1, you got a good history of Belglade, and you got a good history of this company and how it started as a farming operation, truthfully, really all the way back to the early 1900s. And we got to hear from John Schlechter and his father, who's behind me here, and how they...
we heard from
sort of. How through his son. We started farming in the early 1900s, and I'm personally interested in, some of y'all's stories from growing up on that farm. That farm that great granddad and granddad were cultivating and starting and managing. I've always heard some of the fun stories, but like, what was it in no particular order? What was it like when you guys were, maybe 10, 11, 12 years old? What did the farm look like at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot like it is today. Part of what, that part of it hadn't changed a whole lot. You know, it was always amazing for us is if you took some of the things that we were tasked to do today, there probably child welfare would be involved real quick. We might get taken away from our parents at some point. But I remember one time he bought a brand new tractor, a articulating tractor, which was a very expensive tractor, brand new. And he goes, hey, go rip that field. And, you know, I think I was 14 or 15. It's like, okay, let's go. You know, I mean, you just don't think about it. It was a little different environment. Our father was not really good in giving directions and, you know, really being involved in doing. He basically said, hey, go do that.
And expected you to know.
Yeah, that's exactly. So it wasn't a lot of discussion about that. But you should tell them about that. We had one time where, and some of it was, I think, occupying our time. We were supposed to go hoe weeds out of a field, and we pull up to this field, and this field is 1/2 a mile long. Okay, it's 30 acres, and we have 2 hoes, and the weeds are thicker than the crop was. You know, and it's like he said, "Go hoe the weeds." So we're like, okay, we hoed.
Wait, we had no idea where to. So we start on the ditch bank.
Yeah.
Oh, they look worse here. We got 100 feet.
Man, I don't even think 100 feet. That was about half the day was 100 feet, and me and this guy looked at each other like, hey, we're going to go do something else. We're going to act like we didn't hear what he said.
So there's another, actually we're missing a brother in this picture. I think it's important to point out. So there's an Uncle Kenny, who's the oldest of you guys. How old, when you guys were 10, 11, 12, like first let me just ask this, at 10, what point did you get introduced to the farm where you said 14? Was it before that? Was it right around 14 that granddad or we'll call him John, whatever, would be like, hey guys, we're going to go do something on the farm?
Well, the farm was the house. I mean, there was always farm at the house.
You had 1,500 acres around the house where we lived, so there was somewhere to be on a piece of the farm doing something.
Right.
There's multiple farms, so it's not like a separate entity.
Yeah.
Just
And did you
it's
know
what you
did you know what you guys were growing? Were you pretty like, how did y'all become knowledgeable about that?
No, that's to my earlier point. There was not a lot of, hey son, come here. Let me show you what this is. Look at this crop. There was not a lot of those type discussions. But I mean, he was trying to make a living too, you know. So in his defense, he was scuffling to keep a lot of plates up in the air, you know. So I mean, he didn't really have a lot of time for nurturing behavior, and that's not really his nature.
Yeah, he'd come through and you graduate from mowing the 5-acre yard to disking a field. Yeah. So I'd come home from school and he'd say disc the field, and we had an old 8430 articulated tractor that was not a good tractor. I'm pretty sure we'll all go along with that. But
yeah.
He comes home after 3 hours. I'm out there disking in circles, and he's going, straight lines. You go straight down. You see the thing on the end of the hood? You go straight to the end. You turn around, and you can only turn one direction because it's a single offset cutting disc.
Okay.
So you can cut without picking it up off the ground, but you can only cut one way.
Hey, let me add, first off, also, he talked about mowing the grass too. You know, different people do things different ways. You know, I mean, I like to mow the grass. I didn't like it, but I was trying to make the grass look good when I mowed the grass. And when Tom mowed the grass, I got over the whole yard. There'd still be patches of grass all over the place.
No, he waited from a finishing mower. And then Dad bought this pull behind reel mower that was ground driven.
Yeah.
It wouldn't cut nothing. Nothing. So now I'd have to like double cut the grass, and it's still not cutting nothing.
You would think that with the evolution of equipment, you would get something better.
No,
You were younger.
No, he would think that I'm doing it wrong, and I'd get up by the road, and it'd hit somebody's beer can they threw out, and it would jam up, and then those steel wheels would rip a big rut right through the middle of his yard. And so now you're out there wrestling his stupid reel mower to get the beer can out.
Yeah, the wheels have only been locked up for 100 yards before you see it.
Yeah, exactly. See, there's the rest of the story because he's like this. Oh, just going.
That mower didn't have just one gear. It had low range and high range So in high range, I had that thing hopping across the yard.
See, now the truth is coming out. And now it's clearing up.
Did y'all have the farm out on Browns Farm Road when y'all were young?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you had around the house and the farm.
Yeah.
What was that?
Went to
30 minutes away from the house?
Yeah, 6 miles away.
See, these two guys were
But
close
that
in
one
age.
was, as we're growing up, the one out 6 miles was out of our that was Dad's job.
Yeah.
You know, he was gone to the farm. The acreage around the house wasn't really the farm to us. That was just life.
I mean,
You know, like the cane fields, you grew up in Belle Glade. The cane fields were just part of the scenery, not farm.
that was Bill's horse riding territory.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the best horseback riders I've ever seen in my life. Bareback, by the way.
No, he was a trip rider. Trip rider hanging off underneath the pony's neck.
So all of the stuff that all of the farm stories mostly happen around the house.
Well, and not necessarily, because once we're able to drive, then we could go to the other farm, to the main farm, and then it was some. Again, you start with menial tasks. We hoed weeds. Then as we got older, we would start, as they're harvesting the crop, we would start doing things with the crop where we're loading crates onto a truck, doing things like that. But before that, even that, then there in the summertime, it was, if you had a trailer, you had these trailers that you haul produce with, and those trailers had rust on them. So you had to go take this little metal hammer and beat the rust off of, and you're talking a 50-foot long trailer, you had to beat rust off of it. It was a job where you're going, what am I doing? But I mean, it's all day long. You just beat, doot, 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 doot.
But in town, we had pipe gates instead of these corrugated things, and the pipe gates had to be the same thing. So you're out there beating rust on them, hoping wasps don't come out of the stupid pipe and sting you anyway. And then you got to paint the thing over, because they were old enough to get taken to the farm during field corn, and they do field corn. Well, he'd have me working in town and doing like border disking around the cane field. But back then, the border disks, our little tractors were all 2-wheel drive. So one little mud puddle, and you and the tractor and the disc were off into the cane and stuck. And walking down the side of the road. And the last thing you wanted to see was him rolling down this rock road in his Cadillac, and you're walking. You're going, oh, this got to be bad.
Yeah.
So what's the first thing for each of you, what was the first thing you ever did on the farm? Oh, Tom?
Mowing. He gave me the bush hog job. We had an old 7-foot Rhino that didn't have a slip clutch. It had a shear pin in it, and he'd have me mow with this tractor that had the shift PTO down here on the bottom, and when you engage it, it would break the pin off and the drive shaft, so you'd have to carry a bag of shear pins with you to mow. It was the dumbest design ever. We probably still got that turd somewhere. It just wouldn't die.
And you were mowing like the roads between, like, what exactly?
Between John Deere and where we grew up, that grass that's all nice and low, they would let it grow to like 5 or 6 feet tall.
Right.
And then cut me loose out in that and mowing that.
You mow around the cane fields.
Yeah.
And you keep the weeds out of the cane fields. That's mostly what he would do, is
Keep
mow
them
around.
going.
All the birds, all the crowds.
So at the time you were mowing, they had switched over to mechanical harvest of the sugar cane.
Yes. I still had the rats.
No, then it was not. That was still hand.
Yeah.
It was still.
That was
hand.
mowing. They were still hand cut.
That 7-foot mower he's talking about was used more for the cane fodder. Once they harvested by hand, they pile the fodder up. Then you'd mow half of the fodder to mulch it, and then the other half.
Is this how you got stuck in the back?
And you get covered in like cane fodder.
So you're mowing it down, and you hear that mower go, so you know it's something bad, and you're up there cringing because you're not in a cab tractor. It's throwing stuff over your head. It's throwing stuff around, but this guy got stuck.
But the shear pin worked better than the clutch, though. You just burn the clutch up.
All right, so what about you, Uncle Bill? What was your first thing on the farm?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Name
I mean,
anything.
they always just did things. You just got told to do. I remember one of our first times together, we were sent to the farm to pick up rocks. And I think I was the oldest. I'm driving. So I drive the Suburban out there with Mike and Tom with us.
And that's 3 sorry workers.
Yeah. Every time we got sent to do a job, it cost him more money.
Because they'd blown all this rock out of the canal to make it deeper, and we were going to pick it up and move it.
But the rocks were in the fields. That's what he's saying. You pick the rocks up out of the field so it doesn't mess up the cultivators. It doesn't mess up the mowers. So that's what he's talking about.
So
Pick rocks up out of the field.
yeah, so we get a tractor, a wagon, big wagon, and we're pulling along, putting rocks on it, and we go to move. I don't know where we're moving.
The wagon was like the back of a hydraulic dump truck. They converted the dump bed to hook to a tractor.
Yeah,
Okay.
we cut the cab off and put a tongue on it of a dump truck.
Right.
'Cause, I don't know.
Listen, I know why. They improvised. In Belgrade, it wasn't, I'm going to go buy a new one. It was, I got this right here. I can make it
Yeah,
work.
I got this dump truck. It's rotted out. So I
right.
put a tongue on it and pull it with this tractor. It'll work perfect.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I hate to say it, there was a lot of successful people that
Man, it worked.
made it that way, you know, because they were resilient at what they did. They didn't need, you know, again, anybody, if it breaks a nail, we're going to go get a new one. No. Then there was no new ones. It was, oh, we got this, let's use this, or we can fix that and do that. That was it. Put a little weld on it and whatever, it's ready to go.
So back to this job. Mike and I are somehow tractor. We're moving, and Tom's following us in the Suburban. He's young. He's probably 13, 14.
So
Yeah,
get
about
that
13.
acre. He's driving the Suburban at 13.
The pulpin comes out of the rock wagon we're pulling and sticks in the road. You know, it's just dead. I mean, we're not moving fast, but Tom's giving.
You can't see the tractor
so you
from
can go.
behind it. All you see is the dump truck.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. You turned around, and by then I was trying to catch up to him.
He caught up to it and ran right dead into the back of that wagon, smashed this Suburban. It starts whistling, and you look up, and Tom's running out across the field because he thinks it's going to blow up. You're like, what in the world?
I'm 13. I'm hitting the brake. My boot slides off the brake pedal. I'm like, oh, cover up, dude. So I smashed this thing, and I'm looking at it in the windshield, and I wake up, this thing's whistling. So I'm kicking the door open. I'm going across the field, getting out of here, man. I'm watching too much TV.
So what are y'all thinking? You got your 13-year-old.
Well, we're just all, you know, the Suburban's messed up now.
Oh, he's laughing. He's on the tractor, turning around, about to fall off the tractor, laughing at me running across the field.
But we're looking around waiting for the Dad's car to come. You're like,
So Tom's driving the
this ain't
Suburban.
gonna be good.
Tom's driving the Suburban. You're driving the tractor. Were you the only one picking up rocks?
That probably usually is the case. That's exactly right. And I think that's the state of how dumb I am. That's really, you know, Phil's like, hey, why don't you get down here and do that? Okay, all right. What?
No, never did you.
No,
Mike, get down there and do that.
no, there was always going to be some conversation.
I'll tell you, and listen, it was always, the jobs we always got were the things that really nobody wanted to do. You know, it was just, and he knew that. Dan knew that. That was what part of the reason, you know. I mean, some of them was just, you know, like the culverts or the pump. The pumps would get, I don't know, if they would get animals caught in the pump. And you'd have to dive in the canal.
Well, you would think it was an animal.
or a board or something.
It could be a board out of one of the culvert heads or a tire or something. But you either spend all day picking the pump out of the water, or you got to get in and go swimming and feel around in the dark for it. Because Ken was notorious for picking me up off a tractor and going, come on, let's go check this pump. And, you know, get your boots off, swim down in that Pelican pump, and let's see what it is.
And just for clarification, y'all know this. This is water that you cannot see anything in.
Yeah.
There are alligators. There are snakes. There is things in there that can hurt you. Yeah. And it's like, you don't even think twice. I didn't do it. I'll tell you right now. I don't care. I don't really care. I don't care if that pump melted. I wasn't doing that. I can tell you that now. Yeah. That was not happening.
Ken's going, hey, there's a guard. Go up in there about 4 feet and stick your hands in the guard and see what you feel.
I'd have said, Daddy, we got to buy a new pump. I ain't doing that. But
so I feel up in there and I feel the edge of something. And I'm thinking it's an alligator. So I'm like banging my head off the pump and I'm coming out up in the water. Go, it's a gator. He's a gator. He goes, he's turning the top of the pulley. He goes, well, it must be dead. It burnt the belt, threw the belts off, so it's still in there. So here, take this chain and hook it to it, and let's pull it out. So I swear,
guys, I wouldn't have done that.
I'm sitting back down in here with
Like
this
you in
chain.
the water where the lily pads are piled like this deep. The pump just pulled all the lily pads, and there's little ones
Man,
Yeah, it's not
swim back down in there, and I feel around, and finally I feel this edge again. I go, okay, it's not a gator. So I put the hook over it. He hooks it to his truck, and the pump starts lifting up out of the water. Finally, you just thong, pulls out a semi tire that's wedged in it.
That's amazing.
Dude. And he goes, all right, you can go home for today. You're all wet now. And I'm going, okay, let's go. I'm going home.
I would have worked all night, went 7 days a week before that happened. I would have done that.
When we put in culverts, like all them culverts, we had to rip wrap around them for erosion. So one of us is getting in the canal to place them.
Because that's concrete bags. It's concrete bags.
Culverts. Okay, I got you.
So
There's
concrete
another-
bags stabilize the culvert. So you put the rip wrap culvert, the bags around it to keep it stable.
You
Stable.
stack up to a certain level, you
it would
drive
solidify
rebar
and put the
stack them
rebar
up higher.
Yeah.
But you got to place them down at the very bottom.
So y'all could legitimately say when you drive around Belgrade that y'all were some of the builders of what you're looking at when you're looking at all these canals and.
Well, we didn't. Well,
I would not put that under our claim to fame. I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
I would say anything we built would have been, but it would not have approved the inspection of those things. I can say
But
that.
I think it's cool to know, like, when I was being raised around Belgrade, it was like, everything was already all put together. And we didn't have stories like that. Like, that's a pretty cool story that you guys were in at least the time period where y'all were still developing certain things.
How did you get out of like cane maintenance? We used to have to put out rat bait and those PVC pipes around the cane fields.
With our hands.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to hear it. Let's go deeper on this.
So you've got rat bait granules and buckets. And one of them's to dry, one of them's to sit on the back and stop and go, oh, there's one down there. So you get a
There's
scoop
one-
of
what
this
is that?
rat bait.
There's what down there?
There's a PVC pipe
It was just
about a foot and a half long.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you
okay,
put
okay.
bait in it and put it in the cane field.
it's a bait station, not a PVC pipe.
Yeah, bait station.
Yeah.
Well, it was PVC pipe, dude, about 60 inches. So
So you put the rat bait in there.
run back, get back on the truck. Well, you do this for a few hours, and the driver of the truck sometimes gets a little bored. And we had this Chevy 3 on the tree truck, and at the time, the driver of the truck was your father. So he decided to punch it and dump the clutch pedal on me. We hit a bump. Truck's gone. I'm flying. I smack the ground. I'm rolling. So again, he turns around laughing. I'm crying, going, I'm telling you. I can't believe you did that, man.
I thought there was another bait station.
Oh, there's bait station. Jericho. These guys had it like that.
It was some of the stuff, it's just how we survive sometimes is insane. It's insane.
So he got one back though. They'd make me and this guy work together. We were building a new bus barn. So they laid all the metal work out in this pasture, and we had to scrub it down and paint it with this rust-resistant material, and we had an electric sprayer. So this guy's always going, you do this, and you do that, and you do this, and you do that. And I'm like, all right, fine. So we come back after lunch one day, and it's just hot. We're out there, shorts and T-shirts, just
In the
sweating,
summer.
painting this stuff. So the paint thing's going, and he's going, get the bucket, and he's just doing the spray thing. Well, I'm moving the paint around. Well, the paint thing gets stuck. He goes, turn it up higher. Turn the pressure up higher on that electric thing. I'm like, so I walk over there and turn the thing up higher. And it's stuck. Oh, no, I can't believe this. Give me a wrench. Give me some. All right, here. So he's over there, unscrewing on it. All of a sudden, this thing blows up in his face. Paint all over his face. So like a brainiac, he goes over there to the mineral spirits bucket and starts splashing mineral spirits on his face. So now it's burning his face and his skin.
I don't remember none of that.
But guess what? That's another work day that went real short. We loaded up in the truck and called it a day. This guy was so mad.
So back to your original question. I remember one of the earliest times on the farm for me, and you just made me kind of think of it. I thought I wanted to go to work at the farm with this guy named Dave Williford. He was our uncle. He was our uncle, but he was from Tennessee. And he came down to build celery seed beds. And I thought it was going to be cool. I was a little guy. Now I was probably 8, maybe 10. And I said, I want to go to the farm. Will you? Let's go. He goes, all right, we're going to leave at 5:30 in the morning. You know, I'm like, you know, it's like you went hunting the other day. It was cool. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up and go. So we get up. I get up. I've got my lunch. I'm ready to go, boy. We go out there. And it's early, you know. I think by 6:30, we're getting at it. And I'm like, if this was work, it wasn't, hey, we're going to go mess around, you know, in the water fountain at the mall. This was pulling these, the covers, you know, the covers for the seat bed. You had to cover the seat bed. So we're pulling these wires and all this stuff. And I got a dog with I made it till about
7.
No, I made it till like 10. And I said, you know, I thought it was a game. I said, hey, Uncle Dave, I'm ready to go home. Home? Here's old country. Home? You ain't going home. We ain't going. I said, hey, can't you just run me out? No, we gonna work till 5. You know, and I'm telling you what, bro, these little tears running I said, holy cow, dude. You know, I mean, I ended up staying the whole time, but I'm gonna be honest with you now, that was a lesson in life. And I mean, I'm 57 years old. I still remember that feeling of the dude saying, hey man, we came here to work. You're gonna work. Now I never went back to the bar again.
So 5:30 the next morning.
Yeah, I said no. But it was, you know, I think all of us can say all of those experiences taught us stuff, you know, in your life about working and about, you know, things you don't want to do and how you do certain things, you know, because all of us took different avenues. You know, Bill, you know, after we got a little older, I don't know if you want to go into that, but he was a farmer. He is a farmer today. So he did more of the growing of like crops. So, I mean, really a lot of things he learned when he was young, he said, I will never do that again. So I'm going to figure out how to grow this thing, you know, and do, you know, so all of us went kind of different avenues, but it was all helpful in whatever we did. Some of those remedial jobs that nobody really wanted to do.
What was the makeup? Because you had the acreage around the house, and then you had the other farm out at 6 Mile you were talking about. Yeah. What was the crops that were growing at each farm?
Mostly cane around the house. He rotated sometimes with some beans and stuff, but cane mostly stayed in town.
That actually is 640 acres in town. 640 acres in town, because you had a half section and probably 42 acres, 150 acres, and
150, 270.
I mean, you had close to 600 acres in town, is what that was.
Mainly they kept in, and sometimes they'd have beans. And then there was one time somebody decided they wanted to grow some pumpkins.
That one
On a piece
well,
of
hey,
ground.
just to tie it into, and land we're talking about there is the original farm that Dad was talking about where our great-grandfather homesteaded. So what we're talking about, the home farm, that's that land. So that is the original farm we're talking about that is around the house in Belglade. The other was stuff that as they grew, they bought land out kind of away from town, like Bill's saying, 6 or 7 miles outside of town. And there's a couple thousand acres out there. And they grew, or you can go ahead.
I mean, they grew vegetables, celery, lettuce, romaine,
escarole, endive, parsley,
sweet corn, bean, whatever they thought they might make money at, they tried.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the way everybody in the glades was, you know.
I think the parsley they were spraying mineral spirits on it as a herbicide.
Well, it was a different animal, that's for sure.
As we're talking about the values, it's like that manual labor per se. It's like what are some, now that you guys have kind of expanded now into this business, like what are like some specific things you guys could like take away from that? Because like that's something in this generation that is, I feel, even, you know, I'm 27. It's like almost being lost. And I grew up in the baking industry where it's like, you know, those filling cannolis at Christmas morning. You know, it back then it was stupid, but now like, okay, just how to sit there and just work for 8, 9 hours straight. You
I mean, there's still jobs that have to be done, and somebody has to do it. You know, regardless. I mean,
The spraying's not easy. The spray tank systems they're way more easy now than they were. But like if he and I were spraying and he was running the spray tractor, when he'd come back, I had to get the ditch bank pump in it and put all the chemical in it and fill it back up, and he'd go back to spray. Well, when he'd go back to spray, I'd go lay underneath the wagon in the heat on the rock road, take a little nap for about 20 minutes till he'd come back. But now you have automatic systems where you're plugged in and you have eductors to put chemicals in, so the refill time is way easier, way more accurate. But their count wise, again, Ken taught like our dad taught when he taught you how to do something. So
Which was nothing.
right, he'd say, spray that block of cane, and when you go back down, go 6 rows over and go back down. Well, then he'd come pick me up for lunch, and he'd come back and he'd start counting rows, and he'd go, Tom, you missed a row. You went back 7 rows on that one. You went 5 rows when you turned around and went back in on that one. You missed this one completely. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun being shown how stupid you could be during the day.
Hey, I think and that's a great point. Some of the things it taught you is work ethic. And I think, you talk about generational stuff, people they think it sounds stupid. But if you don't have a work ethic, you're not going to succeed. You might get lucky. Some of these Bitcoin guys and stuff, but even those guys have a work ethic in what they do. And, that's kind of what, to me, you learn, hey, like that guy taught me, hey, man, it doesn't really matter how you feel or you're going to work. And if you don't do it, then, we'll figure something out. But that work ethic, I think, for this generation, to me, would be something that we take it for granted. To Bill's point, there's a lot of jobs that have to get done, and somebody's got to do these jobs.
but there's an objective. You have an objective, and there's certain things that have to be done to get there. So you notice we thought of them as the small things, but the little things have to get done too to achieve. So
Yeah, that's 1,000%. So for us, we're a company now today of 566 people, and it takes everybody. That team concept, we understand, because we've done things that the lowest person on the totem pole had to do. And that probably is what Dad was really trying to get over to us is, hey, you ain't too good. We're all going to do it. We're all going to do it.
Yeah, your last name ain't going to start you up here. It's going to start you down here, and you're going to be held to a different. It better be done this way and better, because you're going to be held underwater if it's not. Yeah. Like the cultivation, Ken would come back and show me a week later and go, "See where you missed that? None of those weeds are dead. You want a little backpack sprayer? You want to go spray that?" No. Then we went to the John Deere side. I was the parts delivery guy. I ran the parts delivery truck from Belle Glade over here. And at the time, Deere didn't really make little nursery tractors. But we had a general manager who thought, all right, I'm going to teach Tom a little humbleness. Because farmers typically are getting sold to. So when you see a salesman come to the farm, you go find something to do because you don't want to talk to the farmer. Now I'm the salesman. So he prints out this thing that shows how many nurseries there are and how many little tractors have been purchased on the coast. So he says, Tom, while you're over there delivering parts on the coast, stop into these nurseries and make some cold calls on nurseries. I could do about 4 of these a day before my pride and ego just couldn't take it anymore. And back to delivering parts.
Well, that's actually a good transition because you guys have told some awesome stories about the farm, but like at the same time, Everglades Equipment Group was started in 1963 is what we've all kind of come to with.
Which, by the way, there is one person in this room that was born alive in that year. I will just say that.
and
that's the person about to talk there.
I would cut that.
Yeah.
But you were talking. He talks about Ken. Ken is 6 years older than me, 11 years older than you. So Ken was already He talks about Ken's our oldest brother. So he was working the farm and taking Tom and, giving him directions.
And can I tell one quick story? The greatest story in the world. I feel like when Bill was 16 and Ken is 22, he sent us to go get some food. He sent Bill to go get him some McDonald's or something, okay?
Yeah.
So we're bebopping along, and Ken is an intense fellow. So we come back, I'm just a little punk. I'm 13 and a half, so I'm just along for the ride, really. Well, we come back with the bags of stuff, and I got me a cheeseburger and my Coke, and I sat in there, and all of a sudden, Ken's digging through the bags, and he says, "Where's my fries?" to this guy. And Bill's like, "Well," he said, "Where's my fries?" I mean, this guy was intense. So all of a sudden, he started chasing this guy around the pool table. I thought he was going to kill him. I took my cheeseburger.
Go.
Yeah, I said, I'm going outside. But I'll tell you this, I've never seen a man so upset about no fries. I can tell you that. And the second part of that is, Bill is anybody that knows Bill, he's really he's not a real. That's the fastest I've ever seen him run in my life. I can take that. It was fantastic. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I've seen Uncle Ken, and he definitely can get mad.
Yeah. Anyway,
I could sympathize.
yeah.
If someone forgot my fries,
There'll be a problem there.
they'd be held fair.
Actually, I think it was a Coke. Because if it was fries, I said, turn him Mike with
Anyway,
All right, so tell us about the John Deere aspect. At the same time, it's now the 1980s. You guys are starting to become teenagers. We would like to hear how you guys got into the John Deere side of the business.
well, that's what I was saying. Bill started the farm. So he was in charge of growing the sweet corn and the green beans. Ken oversaw the leafy crops and the cane per se. So that they kind of had that divided up. So when I got out of college,
So yeah, we weren't really involved in the John Deere place at a younger age. No, we were too much liability to put us down there with people that were like normal.
No, they bring us in from the farm to do parts inventory. If they needed somebody to count nuts and bolts, they give you a clipboard and go, "Here, you start on aisle C." And there's oh, this is terrible.
So that's a great point. So we weren't groomed in the John Deere world. We never really worked at our check. As a point, our check came from the farm. There's two companies, and W. Schlechter. All of our funny business was through the farm per se, and the John Deere ran. Everglades ran kind of a separate deal. So we were never really other than count parts or pick up trash, something around the dealership, and then get out of there. Right. So the first introduction of a real job was I did first, because I came from, he was farming. So I came from college, and I had decided to have a family.
Yeah.
And I said, let me go to work.
Intentional decision.
Yes. So I said, we're going to work. And, I came back home and I kind of did a few things at the farm, but then also I started working at Everglades. And, Everglades Dad had a great team of people established there. So it wasn't like there was, a bunch of opportunity to come in and change the world. It wasn't like that.
30-year veterans, people that have been there forever.
Yeah. And they were, like you said, in their 20 to 30 year.
Yeah, they
knew their jobs, had their place squared out.
Well,
there weren't a whole lot of employees either, though.
No, it was a small, probably something like that. But but it was really similar to what Immokalee is probably today, I would say. It's really similar to that. Because the farming was still growing. It was still the whole area was still growing, but it was so I came back from college. Listen, I went to work doing whatever they needed me to do. I still did a little stuff at the farm, but mainly I was at Everglades. So that's how I got into Everglades. And again, I started doing like when I first got there, just for an example, the original general manager was retiring the same year I got there. So that just tells you the kind of the span. And they had just brought in another gentleman, Roger Walker. And the earlier one was W.L. Cunningham, who was incredible. Dad, that's one thing I said. Dad does, one of his strengths is he understands his weaknesses and he understands people. So he puts people in place to do what he's not good at. And W.L. Cunningham was incredible. And then Roger Walker subsequently did the same general manager job for he was probably another 25-year guy. So, I mean, he had really consistent leadership. But anyway, I came in and we weren't really, lawnmower, turf equipment was an afterthought at that time because those of you who don't know, Bellblade is heavily an agricultural area, ag. You don't sell a lot of lawnmowers and different things. So really lawnmowers was if a guy bought enough tractors, you gave him a lawnmower. That was the sale. But anyway, so we started there where I did a little bit of the turf stuff, a mower here and a mower there just to learn the business. But that's how I got into it. And then Tom came behind me. When he graduated, he came, I think you might have went to the farm first though, didn't you?
I went to the farm for a little over a year.
Yeah.
And Dad came in and got me out in the afternoon and drove me into town and said, "You are the highest paid educated tractor driver I have. Let's go work on that." So he took me to the office with Roger and he says, "Roger, you think you can do something with him?" And Roger sits back and with his cigarette in his chair and he does one of these. That's when he's thinking about something. That's how he does it. And he goes, "Yeah, I think I could do something with him. Leave him here. I'll take care of this." And that's when he started putting me on the perch run.
Okay, so that was your original first job, was getting into that.
I will say before you get away, probably a year or two later, he was like, "My God, I wish I would have said no."
So at this time, Bill's on the farm, right? And you're what, 23, 24?
No, then
I'm 28.
yeah.
28.
28. So you've been on the farm.
I'm 5 years older than Tom.
Yeah. Okay. So you're on the farm.
To 6.
And you're, what are you doing at John Deere at that point?
Well, I was doing some of the turf. I started doing a little bit of the turf, and then I really was kind of helping. Me and Roger got along really, really good. So Roger is a people person. He's a people person. I always tell everybody, when I got out of college, I had learned, and Mom and Dad there is no, it's black and white with my mom and dad, and college black and white. Roger, I got out of school, and one of the first things they ever told me, and he took a little bit because, Roger was always he'd kind of stand off to figure you out. Then when he figured you out, he was good. But he told me one time, there was some deal we were doing, and I kind of looked at him like, that seems kind of weird. He said, "Son, let me tell you something." And like Tom said, he had a cigarette. "Let me tell you something." He goes, "You've been in college. You've learned about the black and the white. I'm about to teach you about the gray." It's about that. And it wasn't that, he was one to push the envelope. That's what he always did, because he was a people person, man.
Yeah.
And he also, he put you in really strange positions, He put me one time, he says, and of course it's all under the guise of learning. I'm teaching you. So we came in, he goes, "Come here, Mike. We're going to quote a lawnmower for U.S. Sugar." And U.S. Sugar, those of you that don't know, is a very, very, very large farming operation, And I'm like, holy cow. So, okay, let's go. So he puts the numbers. He's writing it on a piece of paper, writing everything. He goes, "Okay, Mike, now here's the guy. You go in there and you call him. You give him the phone call, you give him this number." I said, I'm pumped up. You got it. And this guy was the general manager at U.S. Sugar, or the head of agricultural operations. So I go in there and I said, "Hey, Mr. Davis, this is Mike." She's like, "How you doing?" "Yeah." "Okay, well, Roger said you want to quote on a mower, and I said, so I gave him the quote on the mower, 10,000, whatever it was. Okay. And he goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, 10. Okay, bye." He hangs up. Well, I didn't know it at the time. He immediately calls Roger and says, "Roger, what kind of price is this kid giving me on this mower?" And Roger said, "Hey, don't worry about it. That young son of a don't know what he's doing. I'll take care of you." And so I find out later on, and Roger says, "Look here, Mike, it was a win-win. if he took the price, we make a lot of money on the mower. If he doesn't, I look like a champion. Okay, so that's your first lesson you learn. You know,
Win-win for him.
that's right. That's right. You had to take. I had to take one for the team.
Good guys and bad guys.
That's exactly right. And Roger somehow is always the good guy. I'll just tell you that he always managed to be the good guy.
What was the relationship between like Bill's at the farm? You guys are both at the dealership. And what was the relationship between the farm and the dealership? Was there any synergy there that you guys were able to build on? Because, you know, it is unique. That's kind of our family story, is that we are a farming family that turned into a John Deere dealer family.
Well, let me tell you the negative side of that.
Yeah, let's start with the negatives.
We'd always end up short on tractors. And Mike would take Bill's and Ken's tractors from the farm and loan them out to our customers.
Mike and Roger, hey, you got a 9,000? This customer's got one. I'm like, look, I paid for these things for all year, and now you want them during the busy.
You know, we come up short with one of our customers, and we promised them a tractor. Hey, we need this 7,000 series. We need this 9.
Hey, cool though.
Hey, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Mr. Customer, did you hear that? What's the problem? Sounds good.
I was farming and I was short tractors. that was the problem. So it's like the phone rings and I was at the farm. Don't answer it.
What was the phones like back then? Like, what kind of phones did y'all have?
The brick phone was the first.
No, the first one was the bag fault.
Wow, it was in
The
the
bag. J.O. had a bag.
They had the bag.
No, we had farm radios.
Yeah.
And we had the farm radio went through the John Deere place too.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
So if you were like, you know, you got on and you said something, everybody has a radio.
Everybody heard it. It was spectacular.
Amazing.
And I can tell you, J.O., when he got on that radio, you knew when he called somebody, and you could hear him, he was unit 3, he was 30. Unit 3 to unit 30. Everybody
stopped there and doing this to hear what oh man, I think that's right. You pulled over your truck because you didn't want to miss it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think, what was Ken, 6? 3 to 6, and then he'd answer. And that was always pretty enjoyable too, because Ken's a little cantankerous and J.O., and they'd be, all of a sudden, they're arguing on the radio, and everybody's like, oh, he's going to get killed. So,
I told you to spray this. Well, Dad, I couldn't. He took the crew that went off to the celery field. I couldn't do it.
yeah. Oh, it was really, but it was, I have to say, it's those moments when you knew J.O. was mad, and he'd go, unit 3 to unit 30. You're like, oh boy, it's a somebody say to the kid.
Or like when we crashed a Suburban, he's standing there and he's got his hands in his pockets and he's not saying nothing, but he's playing with the change in his pocket. He's just sitting there simmering, dude. He's kicking little rocks out of the ground because he can't decide exactly what he wants to do. He's wanting to do something bad.
But the rally, so even John Deere, John Deere was KGO 46. KGO 40.
And they had units. Some of the service guys had radios.
But I mean, there was radios all around in the area. So that was the form of communication but John Deere was KGO 46. They would call KGO 46 Unit 3. Johnny, you call, and Mom was 4. What was she? No, she was 4. Yeah, and she would call every now and again, and it'd be more like 4 to 3. Are you coming to lunch today? Something like that. Or it was, it was just, I mean, you're doing all your, imagine on the phone. You get on the phone, you're talking to Tom, everybody, and
Intelligence.
it was really funny. That was a good question.
But when I got out of college, they had given me one of the old farm trucks. I think it was Sam's truck. It was like a 2-wheel drive, and maybe he was 29 or something, but no AC. And they called that one. I wouldn't even know the number. Then they get mad at me because they're calling your number, dude. Give me what? Okay.
But I don't think I never had a number. I don't think I had a number. By about that time, cell phones started coming in too. So, but the connection on the farm,
well, where did you hear the radio? Because there's a speaker going through the John Deere place with the radio.
Yeah, man.
Over the PA.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Shy, everybody could hear. It was fantastic. It would be like an episode of The Office. If you really heard this thing, it was awesome.
That would change the dynamic of the business today.
Like I might on the phone numbers 3 to 30. The whole bill's about to get.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, well, to put that in context a little bit for those who don't know and maybe didn't watch episode 1, and kind of going back to your point, Tony, my personal experience of like that hard work and that kind of that extra level of just fierceness was J.O., the guy they're talking about. I probably had that when I was younger a few times, where you could feel the determination on this guy.
I would say it's more intensity.
Yeah, the intensity where you knew he had been through so many struggles in his life that he had to overcome, that it almost made you just feel out of place when you were around him a little bit. You were just like, wow, man, you could just feel it. And, you know, hearing y'all stories about him coming over the radio, that would have been primetime TV right there.
It was.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get Dave involved on this. People are wondering why. They're like, who's this Dave guy?
I thought he was like a co-anchor of this. Is that what they call him?
Well, yeah, he's co-anchor. I like
Co-host. He's the co-host of
Color commentator. I'm the color commentator.
You're like Troy Aikman, Monday Night Football.
So we want to know how you guys went from one dealership to now your 18 John Deere dealerships around the state of Florida. Go.
I'm sorry.
No, so, you know, it's I know all three of, you know, to fast forward, all these guys are in the business now, and they play various different roles, and they've had various different roles. So maybe speak to the early growth. Like, how did you guys go from one dealership to, I don't know where you went from there.
This guy went, when they handed me the little lawnmower stuff, he gladly handed me this, what was called the CP book, the Consumer Products book, and he went, here you go, dude.
This is like, because y'all were large ag.
Yeah, right.
And John Deere was starting to push some smaller.
Well, he started, you know, we had already had some farms over here on the coast, on the East Coast. So we had already done their agricultural business, but there were nurseries, as he was doing, like he was mentioning, nurseries, all these things over here on the coast of Palm Beach. So he started, you know, that was sort of the push. But that was still early. We're talking in the 90s late or early 90s is what we're talking about there. So when we started to grow, unless...
No, that's right, because if we were one store, when the lawnmowers, we didn't have any lawnmowers, or we didn't have any little tractors. So if I wanted something, I had to call Berger, or I had to call Don Norris.
He had to call other John Deere dealerships.
Right, I had to call these other John Deere guys. Goes, hey man, can y'all let me have one of these tractors? And I hook up my little trailer and go get it.
Just a side note real quick. The mower side of Deere, was that meant for the consumer, or was that more meant for the farmer?
It's been
Consumer.
but it's been progressing.
Yes.
You had small tractors that farmers use, but then, you know, like any company, they saw an opportunity and they started. I mean, they've always had little mowers that they used that were really
high-end lawnmowers for large ag guys, because they wanted to buy a quality lawnmower.
Yeah.
They didn't want a $500 lawnmower.
Yeah,
they wanted a $1,500 good lawnmower that would last 20 years.
So I would say it was it was with the transition of what we're about to talk about. It happened during this transition too, and that was part of it. And so we move into the late 90s. John Deere starts a push of grow or go, and you know, Tom's in the business, I'm in the business, Bill's still farming. You know, we're young. We're like, you know, hey, we want to grow. You know,
What's the benefit for John Deere of growing or going?
well, they saw strength in dealers that were more stable. You know, so your better dealers that have more dealerships, they have a bigger footprint to take care of their customer base better. So they have more resources to make sure the customer's taken care of.
And at the end of the day, they don't have to sell their ideas to 50 owners when they could sell their idea to 10 owners.
Right.
But I mean, the biggest thing I do think is it provided a dealer network that was much more stable. Because if you look at the dealer, and I'm just going to jump in for 1 second. If you look at the dealer network today, it is slimmed down. It's pared way down. So some people look at it like, oh man, this guy, he owns all these dealerships, and I got to talk. And really, it's like you took Deere took some of their best dealers and said, hey, man, you guys manage more dealerships because we like the way you manage dealerships, the way you take care of customers, the way you stock parts, the way you do things, because it's a better experience for the customer in the end is the way they looked at it. So that was some of their push. So they understood the dynamics. And, it hasn't just happened in our industry. It's happened in the farming industry. It's done the same thing where they can, bigger guys are consolidating, growing their acreage because it makes them a lot more efficient at what they do a lot of times. Now, the little guy still does, if it's a good little guy, he does things good because he gets it. He eats it, breathes it, sleeps it. That is the push we've always said is, I want a professional organization that has a mom and pop feel. That's what we're looking for, is to make sure we do things 1,000% correct. Doesn't always happen that way, but we're always pushing for that. But we still like the mom and pop feel. We want our people to have that kind of connection. We don't want a bunch of corporate robots. But anyway, going back. So Deere said, grow or go. We said we want to grow. So there were several dealership groups, and Tom mentioned one of them. Bergeron was north of us, which was Okeechobee, Fort Pierce, and Stewart at the time. And then the one we really wanted was Immokalee, which was very similar to what we are today, an agricultural area that really was similar to us. And we were already doing a little bit of business there. So we started talks with a group out of Miami that owned that dealership. And they had 3 dealerships as well, one in Homestead, one in Fort Myers, and one in Immokalee. And we began talks with them. And I tell you, that was another Roger moment where we went to, this group also owned either all of the Visa or something out of Latin America. They were very wealthy, very wealthy. And so we go down to Miami to Brickell Avenue. And now we're talking about 2 rednecks from Bellblade, and it's like, what are we doing down here? We go to the 16th floor looking over Biscayne Bay, and we walk in to these guys and we say, we want to buy your dealerships. They went, I don't really, it really did it. It wasn't good.
What year was this?
That was probably 299.
1999, yeah.
So funny thing is, what they didn't count on, Roger Walker is a survivor. He's a hustler. He understands things. He had already talked to a gentleman and befriended one of their key individuals that
did the work.
That really was the guy that was selling. He was the connection. Roger had already talked to him. So he said, and Roger told me, we're going to have a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is we're going to go down there, we're going to talk to them, and we're going to see if they want to sell out. And they basically looked at us like we were stupid, and we really felt stupid, being down there like, what are we doing here? So then we get in the car and he goes, we're about to implement plan B. So he had already talked to their guy and he said, I think you want to go to work for Everglades. And he said, yes, I do. Let's go. So he came to work for Everglades. And basically we had some trying times there because we opened a satellite store without John Deere's permission, and they weren't real happy about it. It was not good.
That part of the gray file?
That was part of the gray file. Yeah,
That was a service point.
Well, it was
a service point.
It was a questionable deal. Anyway, so while that's happening, we're talking to Bergeron as well. Well, these guys played hardball a little bit. Bergeron all of a sudden said, yeah, we're ready to go. Let's go. So they have 3 dealerships. We go talk to them. We end up making a deal for their 3 dealerships. And in the meantime, the other group comes back to us. They're ready to make a deal. And also during this time, Tom is the lead in building a new dealership here, our Loxahatchee location. So we're going through the work of building a building here.
Can we stop for a second here? Because when he says Tom was the lead on this, we had talked Dad into going into debt on a situation that we really were freaked out, nervous about it, because we got our father who he's had his cut at the ball and he's hit a home run and done his thing, and now we're going to put him in debt, and now we're stringing it out, and So he and I were trying to build something. We've never built a dealership before. So we're having to negotiate with the county commissioners. The county at the time was having a no-build clause, and they're not going to give us anything unless we give them some right-of-way. So he and I are like, well, we can't do nothing with it. We don't give them the right-of-way, so we give them 40 foot of right-of-way along the highway. Well, we're showing the plans to Dad. He blows up and starts going, who do y'all think y'all are? Y'all just gave away a 40 foot right-of-way. This time, Mike takes the plans on the table, wads them up, throws them across the ring. What's that? What's that?
Was that the hell you were talking about?
Well, I told you, and all I remember him saying something like, y'all think y'all are big shots. Right. And it's like, let me tell you, I mean, Dad, I ain't never going to say nothing to him, but I'll be honest, that would have been the closest time I would have said, that's what he said. I said, I'm done.
How old were y'all?
Oh, I mean, well,
20.
no, I was,
So I was 29, 30. I was married.
I mean, yeah, I was 30 something. I mean, listen,
But now he's on. He's gone. He's balled up left. I'm sitting there at the table with Dad going, that probably didn't go good, Dad. I mean, really, we had to do some things here, and y'all should have talked to me about it more. And I go, let's just leave it alone for a while, and we'll come back and talk about it later. Let's have this later.
I tell you what, though, that's an amazing story that I've really never heard is like the way you put it with you two are young dudes. I mean, 30 is young. And you guys are asking your father who's hit a home run to go back into debt to build a dealership that y'all really didn't, ask any 30-year-old right now to go build a John Deere dealership. And, and by the way, for those who are listening that may have listened to the last episode, that was the site manager of the Loxahatchee location that's now you got to hear. It's absolutely knocking it out of the park. So that place is
there's
killing it.
There's even better to that discussion. So let me real quick. I'm going to make it short. So we close on Bergeron Group. That's 3 dealerships in I think December of 2000. We close on the 2 dealerships from Richards over in Fort Myers and Immokalee in July of 2001. We opened Loxahatchee in October. No, it was later, but it was in 2001. So we went from 1 to 7, and I think we actually had bought another one in Fort Myers that was like an armor store. Yeah. So we basically went from 1 to 8 locations when we said we wanted to grow. And let me tell you something, it was one of those things where you go, what have we done here? It was crazy.
And the stress level goes twice up because you go from a few lawnmowers and 1 location to, he's going, okay, well, what's your plan for these lawnmowers for the 8 locations? He's got an ag plan. Every ag plan is
their information and matching the different colors together.
Business system.
Where were you at this point?
I was on the farm, and I could come in like part-time, just do stuff with the dealerships, like not.
Were you kind of standing over on the side thinking, what in the world is happening?
No, I was going, oh my God, good luck. Well, actually, I think about that time the IS came along, but I was still farming too.
Yeah, you didn't come into the dealership really fully till like 2000 when the sale.
Yeah, when he said he's tired of being broke, and he said,
well, we'll get there. Where does David enter the picture here? 7 dealerships. Are you here yet, or are you not?
Now, I started July of 2001.
Oh, man. So it was just that.
It was right in the thick of all this going down. So they already owned Bergeron, which was Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Stewart. But, when I came, sit down and talk to him. So I graduated from college, and I knew J.O. and the Schlechter family, Mr. Schlechter, growing up, but I knew him as a farmer. I really didn't. The John Deere side, I hadn't really associated the Schlechter family as the John Deere business. Mr. Schlechter was more known in the community with Pioneer Growers and Sugarcane Growers Co-op and as a farmer. So like our families knew each other, but these guys are quite a bit older than I am. So, even. No, but I knew of them, but it wasn't. certainly weren't friends. I mean, Mike's 12 years older than me. Tom, is a similar age of my sister. I have a sister 10 years older than me. So I knew of everyone. But when I was sitting at a place I was working at the time, which in no thought was actually where I wanted to be. Mr. Schlechter called me on the phone at that place and said, "This is John Schlechter." And I was like, "Oh gosh," because he's a respected man in the community. And I'm sitting there like, why is this guy calling? Was he need help with his water bill or something like that? I was working for the city of Belleville. And he goes, well, we're, I own the Everglades farm equipment, John Deere place, and we're expanding, and, we need some people. And would you be interested in talking to us? And I was like, heck yeah, I would. I really didn't know what I was going to do. So he says, well, if you can come this afternoon, come this afternoon. I said, well, I got to work till 5. And he goes, come here right after 5. So I come to the office, and Mike's a young man, 30, 34, 35 years old, has a thick Tom Selleck mustache.
we got to get a picture of that.
Very handsome Tom Selleck.
Very true.
And I remember I come in, and it's Mr. Schlechter, Mike, and Roger, and we're sitting in an office, and they start kind of just talking, and I'm sitting there like, I have no idea what he's talking about. They're telling me what they need, about how they're expanding. I have a resume. I think I'm all professional. I got my little khakis on, and I'd run home and change clothes, try to look at what professional come in. Mike's leaning back in the chair, like way back at the like with his feet up on the desk, and he's got that, like I say, he's got that Tom Selleck mustache. And I was just talking about things I'd worked all through college. I'd always worked with my dad, kind of very similar to what they're talking about. It wasn't in the farming industry, but I just worked these little odd jobs. My dad always had me doing stuff, teach me lessons, keep me busy, which looking back, I didn't like it at the time, but invaluable time with him and invaluable lessons learned during those things. And, we're talking about just the diversity of what's coming. And how they were looking at these dealerships in Immokalee and Fort Myers. They hadn't made that purchase yet. So, my actual first day after I took the job was counting parts in Immokalee to do the due diligence to do the Immokalee and Fort Myers purchase. And actually, funny story, I remember this is my first day. It was a Monday, and when I was working at the city of Belleville, I said I'd taken over the job, and they asked me if I would give them the 2 weeks. And I talked to Mike, and he's like, yeah, whatever, we're good. So after 2 weeks, and I reported to work on Monday, they said, just go to Immokalee. This is where you're going to be. And so I drive to the store. I'm like, I don't know anyone. Mike, the people I have met, and I knew Mr. Schlechter, and I knew Roger Walker. Roger Walker's son was one of my football coaches in high school. So I knew Mr. Schlechter and Roger, but I really didn't know these guys. And I get there, and all these people are there I don't know. But when I walk in, they had a parts counter, and behind the parts counter was like dirty magazines, and there was an old beer like sitting under there that was open. And I said, guys, I don't know how well you know Mr. Schlechter, but it'd probably be a good idea if by the time he gets here, I think he's on his way, if this stuff wasn't here. And so they're grabbing this.
So you're just a new guy.
That was my first day. I've been there 5 minutes. But I knew that whatever they wanted to continue employment probably wouldn't go well if they had all that stuff sitting behind the counter. And they grabbed it all. They're like, thank you, man. And they're running and throwing it in the garbage can. And, I don't know how long that beer can had been there, but it was like half full. And I'm like, wow, things have done a little differently in this business. And then the rest of the week, I drove to Immokalee every morning and went through the parts department counting parts. And then kind of the rest is history, which in college I had an accounting and a management information systems degree, which is kind of the computer side of the College of Business. And, when I came in, let's just say their technology game at Everglades was very rudimentary. So after I counted parts in Immokalee, I sit down and I'm talking to Roger and Mike and, looking at what I'm actually going to do. And they hand me a yellow pad that has all of our inventory on it. And
Clipboard.
And it was
like the equipment inventory?
Yeah. The equipment inventory for the store was on this yellow pad. Now, they did have some in a computer system, but it just wasn't utilized like we do things today. So it had...
clipboard.
So they had this clipboard, this yellow pad, and when they sold a tractor, they drew a line through it. And then when they got a new tractor from John Deere, they wrote it at the bottom. Nothing was in order. Nothing was like,
How many tractors are we talking?
hey, there were hundreds on this yellow pad.
It would just flip the page.
You flip the page, and they weren't in order by model. They were in order kind of by acquisition.
Oh, so
It was like a legal clipboard,
Yeah.
like long paper. So we put lines across it like this to say where it's going or who it went to or sold.
And there was like a notes box on the end. And
Hold on.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's know we're clear. That little cross out there.
That guy went do it out without
This one, just so we're clear, what year that is? Year 2000. That little clipboard is scratching things out. That says John Deere top performing North American tractor dealer in 2000. So that little clipboard worked really good. It worked really good. Anyway,
I would argue the people behind the clipboard were the ones making it go. But
that shows you it ain't about all. It's about the people.
Well,
exactly right.
it's a tool to accomplish doing it.
There you go.
And the tool at that time was rudimentary.
Yes.
And so, it was kind of in order by the date it was acquired. And like Tom was saying, there was like a notes field at the end, just a little box. And whatever was going on with that tractor was erased 45 times and then something new written in there. So, so that was some of what I worked on at first, was as I was learning kind of the business side of interacting with John Deere, was also getting that information into our computer system in a way that these other locations could see what was going on without having access to this yellow pad that's on a desk in Belgrade.
yeah, that was
You
what I
have
was going to ask.
You have more stores, you have more employees, you have more people trying to sell out of the inventory that the Belgrade location had historically had. They need a way to make.
Well, that was the first big thing. It feels like is when you guys go from 1 to 7. The easiest way would be just to sell to keep doing what they were doing, right? But now it's like, how do you guys start to build the relationship between the dealerships and leverage that growth?
Well, we at that point, listen, I'm a fan of face-to-face. We start having meetings, monthly meetings with our sales guys and with the parts and with the service.
So the current meetings we do today have really started.
That is
right when you.
Well, no, they're not even the same. Well, I'm the same because you're too big for that. But
Well, we always had meetings. Roger, at one location you had a meeting. It's really informal. When you start doing this stuff, you got to formalize some of these things, just like he's talking about. You got to formalize some of these things. So basically, it was a communication piece, and he's very sharp in those type things. So David was, just for 2 seconds on him is, David didn't have hardly no experience in agriculture, none, like nothing. But I'll tell you, he had a work ethic, and he's very sharp. So it's like one of those things. And to me, this is a lesson for anybody. He said, as we started doing things, David would do it. David would do it. David would do it right. David would do it good. So, he starts getting more stuff. So, to his credit, he went from really a greenhorn
Yeah,
in he was probably counting parts that he had absolutely no idea what that was.
It just said they were supposed to be so many.
That's
Were there
it.
that many, or were there not?
so the 4 cards you keep throwing him, he finally figures out going, I see how this is played or how it should be played.
Within 5 years, you're ordering the equipment with different transmissions, different hydraulic.
And some of that had been done, and I can go a little deeper with that, was right as soon as I got hired, your dad has a little house behind his house. And so I got married. We have a daughter on the way. We move into this little house behind your dad's house, which is half a mile from the dealership. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of all in the same year. So when I had come to that interview with Tom Selleck and leaned back in the chair, J.O. said, I need 2 years out of you. Can you give us 2 years? And I said, if I take this, yes, sir. And that was 22 years ago. But when I moved into that little house, I would come over to the dealership lot on Saturdays and jump in tractors and drive them around the lot and organize them and park them, hook things up, move a disc somewhere else so it was just more organized. And that taught me a lot about how to operate the stuff. I remember also one of my first days back in Belglade, because it was in the summertime getting ready for sugar season, we went out on the yard. Roger got me, and we go out on the tractor yard, and we're parking all the tractors in order kind of by customer, so they're ready to go out when the time comes. And Roger, do you remember what year he retired?
It was about
8, 9.
Yeah, probably right along in there.
So this is 2001. So we go out onto the yard, we're moving stuff, and Roger goes, see, whatever needs to be done, we all get out here and we get the job done. I think that was the last day I saw him actually.
I like Mike talk about him doing the cleanup before.
Oh yeah.
When we took the barn down, the old
Well, yeah. Well, the was clear. We're gonna
Have a Deere day.
we're gonna have staff clean up.
yeah.
You know, and he says, all right, everybody, let's get out there. We're gonna y'all show up. We're gonna do it. Okay. So we all show up. Roger has this brand new pair of gloves, John Deere leather work gloves. So all of a sudden he goes, all right, here's the plan, and he crosses his hands like this, and he starts going, you do that, you do that, you do that, you do that. And it's like, I said, Roger, are your hands cold? Why you wear those gloves?
You didn't ever wear gloves to point at everything.
That's funny fun of the team.
Yeah,
Wear the uniform.
yeah, he says, everybody's got a job. My job is to tell y'all what to do.
But that was funny.
So, to me, one A, David's key part of that, and he really, what's really cool about that is, I kind of just thought about it. He's been 22 years. He's grown right along with us, the whole thing, and he's a key part of our growth. We were all involved in from, earlier stages, but as we grew to his point, he came in right then. And really, where he is today and where we are today as a company, his knowledge of equipment, what he does with equipment and all that is pretty astounding. But a lot of it's to what he's talking about. He controlled his own destiny because he learned. He grabbed the bull by the horns. When we gave him something, he got after it, So he's at a point today where we are today. A lot of what we are today is what he has done in
Our
this industry.
PowerPoint, our presentation, our meetings that we put together, we'd send our information to him.
Yeah.
And he'd always manage to slide in some kind of little picture of somebody goofing off.
You had to do. But it was honestly, that was a blessing in disguise, because me, being kind of good at different things, helped me learn, where Roger was getting closer to retirement as I was cutting my teeth. So Roger started using me to do a lot of the kind of work behind the things he was doing. And then I would tag along and go to the meetings with him. So I would see him speaking with customers, how he handled things, how just how he handled the sales process without having to make mistakes to do it. So that was
Please tell the story.
well, it was those types of things were blessings that I got to learn a lot without having to make the mistakes to do it, because I was able to learn from him and see what years of experience he brought to the table and how he invested that in me, sometimes selfishly, but it was worth it.
Yes.
Worth it to me.
He was fantastic.
Even though he had me do some of his work, it benefited me in ways that brought me along much faster. So some of it was right place at the right time, being there from, like you say, from when Everglades started expanding and being part of that. But I'm also extremely proud of where we are today because of being along for that ride.
Yeah.
So, what Mike's referring to is I had been with Everglades maybe a year, maybe less, like 8 or 9 months. And I started.
One thing you have to know about David keeps his emotions in check. He's a fantastic card player, could be, if that's what he chose.
Freaking out doesn't solve anything.
He never really shows. There's not a lot of kickback you get from Roger. So just keep that as he's telling the story. Yeah, from David.
Yeah. And Roger was a man that wore his emotions on his sleeve.
Yes, he is. So you never saw it from Dave. He's in check, buddy. He's always in check.
So Adrian Puig was one of our seasoned salesmen at the time. And
Great guy.
He was also getting close to retirement. So you got these guys that have been in the business a long time. And then you got Mike, who is kind of in the middle, and me, who's brand new. And I had just had a lot of stuff thrown my way. And one of them was actually paying John Deere when we sold equipment. So, I asked a lot of questions. I tried to read a lot of things to make sure I was doing it right, because I'm kind of new to this. And now I'm actually spending Everglades money in this administrative process of paying John Deere for the equipment we've sold. So Roger calls me in his office. I have no idea what's going on. Mike and Adrian and Roger all sitting there staring at me. And Roger asked me this question. He asked me a question about how you calculate discounts when we pay John Deere for the equipment. And so I answered the question. And as soon as the words came out of my mouth, his one finger's in my face and the other hand's pounding on the desk, telling me, no, it is not that way. That is not the way you do it.
And I'm telling you,
And like really made it
Roger,
really angry.
and there's one thing about Roger. He is an intense fellow. I mean, when he's like he's talking about it, he was.
Oh, and he was intimidating.
Yes.
I mean, he was an intimidating, experienced, fellow that when he's that confident, of course, and I wasn't, you start thinking, dang,
But
probably wrong.
But here's the beauty. So I'm gonna let him finish. But before, here's what was going on right at that second. Roger is erupting, and David, because I know David too, and he said he studied it. He don't just mean he just looked at it for 2 seconds. When he does something, he analysis. I call him analysis paralysis by analysis, but he analyzes everything he does, which is awesome. So he still analyzed this situation. So immediately Roger explodes, and then.
Well, I'm standing there staring at him, and I'm just probably somewhat deadpan. I'm like, and in my mind, though, I'm calculating how much money I have cost this new company I'm working for. If I had done it wrong, and I'm starting to get up into 6 digits, and I'm going like, well, this was fun. I'm not going to be working here much longer. So, and Roger's just yelling at me. And what I know now is, let's say I had made those mistakes. You can go back to Deere and say I made a mistake and get it corrected.
Yeah.
But at that day, I didn't know that.
No.
And so I'm thinking, this is bad. This is real bad. And so...
he says he was deafened. That was the only time I saw...
Well, and then...
I saw fear, and I'm just sitting there like I got a front row seat.
Yeah. Well, the wave starts coming over me that this is not good. So then I said...
This is like the radio going off and David's number.
Oh, yes, it was.
So then I start thinking, okay, the lady who had been responsible for doing this before me was named Debbie Throgmorton. And I said to Roger, I said, well, I got this information from Debbie. Oh, explode again. Debbie, who's, what's Debbie? And I'm like, okay.
He was not okay.
No, this is all going on in Turkey. So I was like, that probably wasn't a good thing.
He was doing nothing.
Yeah. He's pointing and yelling. He's like, this cost us. That's not the way you that's not the way you calculate your discounts. So I said, well, pull out the contract and let's look at it. So then he rummages through his desk and he pulls out the contract and he's looking down at it. And you can kind of see his face change. And he goes, you were right. And I was like, okay. So then you got Adrian and Mike sitting there, and Mike goes, man, Roger, what you did just ain't even right.
I said that, and it ain't even right.
And Adrian sitting there goes, I knew David was right, but you were yelling so loud that it made me think I was right. and I'm like,
and I can tell you that you can't tell, but David is a big man, and I've never seen a big man like this dude was about to there. I fell under the table.
Think about it. You're 23, 24 years old. It's really my first real career job, and I got the general manager of this company who, I had the advantage of being able to talk to him personally, and I did know him personally. But I haven't even been here a year, and he is giving it to me about what I've done wrong and how much money it's cost. Yeah, of course. Man, a little nervous.
But I think that's the reason. But the beauty of it to me is, now I've been with David the rest of the years, and I have probably never seen him like that since that day. That was a moment that I will never cherish. Probably.
That you had to share with everyone here.
Oh,
Let me ask you this for each of you. Tell me a little quick story about when you went from 1 to 7, and maybe one funny experience you had or a hard struggle you had when you did that. In no particular order.
Start with the hardest.
Yeah, what was the hardest thing? Like, you went from 1 to 7. What was the hardest thing?
Well, we talked about the lawn equipment that the volume of equipment you move in lawn and garden is 10 times what it is for agriculture. So Deere come out with this idea that they were going to buy these Let's Go outdoor chemical places and let us service them by putting equipment there. So I'm ordering all the equipment, everything under 100 horsepower for every location. And then Deere says, what's your plan to do this? At the same time, we're doing marketing too. So I've got a marketing plan going, and I'm ordering equipment to support the marketing plan. And they go, Deere's going to have a ADBR meeting. So
Annual dealer business review.
we're going to have to, you better be on your game. You got to be on your game. We're going to have this meeting with these guys. And a lot of us going to be, what's your plan? What's your plan? Because as you love, I know your father has said this to you many times. What's your plan?
Yeah.
What's your plan going to be? So I got my marketing plan. I got my plan for what I want to have my dealers do, the levels of equipment, my volume of equipment. And we meet with these people. And for about 2 hours, we talk about lawn and garden stuff. And they're squeezing me. It's squeezing me. It's squeezing me.
That's amazing, though.
They roll over and they go, all right, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. They look over at David and Mike and they go, let's talk about ag. What's y'all's plan for ag next year? And David says, well, basically, we're going to sell all we can. That's it. Then we go to lunch.
That's all it took. Oh, that's funny.
These two jerks squeezed me for weeks to get all this information. I had pamphlets and handouts.
What is a marketing? Oh no, you did see that trophy from the number one dealer in Dragon Sales. I think what do they want? And that's performance. That's what we said. We just dropped the mic.
Hey, with a lot of garden, we were also number one many times. Even before we were one store,
Yeah.
we broke some $1 million goals there as one store.
What was a marketing plan? What did that look like for these? Because now you have 7 dealerships, right? And you're like, we're going to make, what does a marketing plan look like in 1999?
We had specialists in each location, so we had named specialists, whether it was lawn and garden or whether it was a compact. And later we got skid steers, so Deere wanted specialists for that. But yellow equipment, they wanted a whole different plan. And they kind of gave you a guideline of what they wanted to see.
Yeah. Well, like print materials and...
Print materials and numbers and volumes of orders.
Okay.
How much they wanted you to order and how many specialists they wanted you to have. Well, at the time, Deere's yellow equipment was not phenomenal. I mean, I think the skid steer was built by New Holland and it had a John Deere engine in it, which was fine. But at the time, we were split areas with big industrial places. So we're trying to sell them into tree farms.
Uh-huh.
So we had people at John Deere doing unrealistic expectations. And I would tell them realistic expectations. This kind of clashes don't go well.
Yeah.
The Schlegner side of me comes out.
Well, listen, honestly, we were learning.
Right.
What was yours?
Well, we grew up in ag. So for us as a business, we were learning that side of the business, you know, and the Schlechter strong suit is not analytical planning and documentation. That's not our strong suit, you know. And again, to Dad's point, you know, we basically threw Tom kind of to the wolves a little bit in that world. Not a little bit, a lot, because it is something that we weren't used to, you know. So, and John Deere wasn't used to it. To Tony's question earlier, John Deere loves to tell you to come down and present to them, but we're presenting to somebody that doesn't really know what they're going to do either. So it's like, which is, you know, I love, you know, look, John Deere's a great partner with us, but sometimes they ask you to present and they really don't, because if they could do it, they wouldn't need us.
Right.
You know, so it's always kind of funny to these John Deere meetings where you're presenting to them about something that they don't know anything about, you know.
They're supposed to be your grader.
Well, it's like, really? Yeah. You know, why don't you tell me how to do it then, and I'll just do what you say. But, you know, it's never works like that. But anyway, hey, it was new stuff for us. We were blazing some frontiers, so we were trying things, you know. Tom used to beat the, you know, store, go around to the stores, you know, to handle inventory. But it was really we were a little more wild west in those days. And that's just reality, because, again, our strong suit isn't the analytical, let's do all this forecasting. And, you know, let's go do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a learning process. So for me, hardest thing was as we were growing, we were putting, and Tom's kind of already mentioned, we put financial pressure back on Dad. And that really was uncomfortable for all of us, really. You know,
A lot uncomfortable.
so he came to a decision, and it was hard for Bill and Dan because it changed everything. Where he decided he was going to sell the farm out away from town.
Yeah.
And
The main farm that we all grew up on.
yeah, cause I mean, and that was a really tough decision because that was blood, sweat, and tears for him. So for all of us, it was kind of a double-edged sword. It was like, dang, But then part of it was good because it put him back in a position where decisions we make don't really affect him. He's okay. He's financially okay. We don't, we're not going to really screw his world up.
Yeah.
So that part of it was the good part of it. The hard part was part of it was a little sad, when you sell.
What year was this?
That was about 07 or probably 08, somewhere along in there.
So from 01 to 08, you guys were 7 dealerships?
No, I think we might have bought a onesie or twosie in there somewhere. I think the next substantial growth was Highlands, which was 4 dealerships. That was, but I don't think that occurred until 2011.
Yeah, we didn't have another store. We acquired some other area.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Stewart opened, closed, moved. Antler, we bought, we closed.
Yeah.
We tried some small lawn and garden things that.
Like with Lesco, like you're describing, and also during that time, John Deere did not have the product offering they have now. So when you're trying to make a plan,
And we had a depression in 05, 06,
08,
07.
the housing market,
Housing deal.
I mean, it went in the toilet, and my segment looked like this.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
They make fun of me all the time because I remember that crystal clear. We had skid steers sitting there that were going nowhere and had been going nowhere. And we basically were at a sales meet and said, all right, 50%, get them gone. We're done. And
I'm gonna pay the salesman a $500 spiff.
but
Half our salesmen got up, walked out of the meeting.
yeah, but I don't.
Just like phone calls.
and it still took them a little while.
That's exactly right. So it was
that day.
and I tell David and them all the time they get tired of hearing it because we sell over 500 of those units a year now, which is insane. So, but I tell them if the economy goes bad, those things go to nothing. They do not move at all. So they laugh. They kind of smirk at me because here we go again. Here's this.
We're not smirking at the concern. We're smirking at the amount of times he said it since that year.
Yeah.
That was
Well, it was one of those where there was no planning. I was going, well, let's talk about discounting these things. And this guy goes, 50% off.
hey.
And I'm only going, what? 50%.
It was time.
Yeah.
It was time.
Yeah.
And like I say, they still did, even with that kind of knee-jerk aggressive reaction, it still took a couple months to get them sold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing.
That's where the market was at that time.
Some of Dad's educating is in these little analogies or what is his little sayings.
His little unique cliches.
Yeah, I mean,
he makes up something that sounds like a cliche.
One of them was about the equipment, and that's just everybody says it, but it's about it ain't gonna smell no better, a year from now. And you know what? He's 100% right. If it stinks and smells like, it's time.
Yeah.
And you just better be able to have the financial fortitude to be able to stick, to be able to do what you got to do. That's the key to it.
One of his best ones he ever said to me was like, I had a problem talking to farm guys about money owed and getting it collected. And he finally goes, look, if you can't talk about money to your customer, you've already lost your customer.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
If it's owed, let's get it paid. If it's not owed, tell me so I can fix it and we can go on.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things about a family-owned business. They're not going to call in and get 55 recordings till they get to a person that goes, okay, yeah, I got you. I understand. Let's fix it. Dink, done.
in 2008 when you sell the farm, how's that for you, Uncle Bill? Because I know that's an interesting part of this whole story is when you guys talk about we had to make a decision as a family because you don't get to 18 dealerships kind of farming and doing the dealership thing. What was that transition like for you and the farm?
I needed a job, so that was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Which I had worked part-time with the John Deere and the transition to 7.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what I did when I went there. Went into sales right on.
No, you were
I
parts. You were, well, IS, and then you did some parts too.
Well, he worked
it
in
was
service
the other way
too.
around.
Yeah. He worked in service out of Fort Pierce because remember we would have issues between service and parts, getting in little conflicts about little things.
Yeah, but I think his first position was in I think it was parts. I think you, at one time,
it wasn't going to be service. Service has the worst job. It's a difficult job, but I got to tell you, the sales live on the service. As far as the ag, we don't have the support of service we don't have.
Yeah. Well, to that point too is I feel like after after all this and after the episode before, this company was like, it was built as, hey, we could service tractors, and I remember it's early on when they started that original tractor dealership or whatever it was, it felt like people in the community trusted you guys, that granddad or somebody could get it done to service tractors, fix tractors, and
I think they've come up needing and always understand the equipment has to run, and the customer can't always think it. So if you sell it, you better know how to fix it or replace it.
And you have a better understanding of the farming background because our background was in it. If it's planting season and your plant tractor's down, there's a certain level of pressure there to get it turned around. And for you to be a part of that team to get it moving again.
Well, even now, if we don't understand that the equipment in our shop is something that's prohibiting a customer from making money and providing for that equipment provides them their living, we're missing it. I mean, that's the foundation.
Right.
We got to get that stuff turned around in a excellent way as fast as we can.
By bringing Bill in, he, as you said, he is a farmer. He does understand. He does know the calendar. He does know the time clock. He knows when they're supposed to be doing side dressing, applications, land prep. So he brings a lot more knowledge to the ag side than many people, including being Brother Mike here when we started.
when you say IS, what does that mean?
What is it called now? AMS again?
Integrated
I think it was integrated solutions. No,
Yeah.
it was.
It's the technology side of the John Deere business.
It started out as AMS,
Yeah.
and it was like automated machine solutions, and they changed it to integrated solutions. So that's the moniker.
But it's the technology side of the John Deere business.
But then they came out with that early too. You know, the sales pitch, how much you gonna sell, and you're like, I'm just gonna use it. You know,
Yeah.
It works great in corn. What's it do for sugarcane?
And that was interesting for you because here's a farmer that just came into the business and they're starting to say, oh, we got all this technology that can make you more efficient.
How? Implement it. Tell me.
Yeah.
What's it going to do?
But,
How's that going to work?
Bill was a great fit for that early on because, as Tom was saying, he understood farming. So he's looking at ways and pieces of that Deere technology, even though it may not have been designed for the crops that we had, he still understood how to make it work. And we're still benefiting from that foundation today, in that a lot of our guys in that technology space kind of have to hustle through figuring it out. And that's what Bill did from day one.
Can I ask this? The one thing that I always kind of wrap around, especially with this, is that on the employee side of things, obviously the customers are very important, but you guys also seem to take a lot of value in your employees. Because I've only been here 2 months. The major thing I've noticed is that there's people that have been here 10, 20, 30, even 40 plus years. How vital was that to the growth of this company?
I think that's a personal thing, just how we interpret people from dad on down. I mean, you're
Without the people, you have no company.
Yeah, they make
your company. Period.
Yeah,
Make the company. You have to have good people.
But we also reflect that. It's easy for people to say that, But I mean, we've given a pretty good, and money's not always the thing, but we've always said, hey man, we are in this together. It's us. When it's good, it's us. When it's bad, it's us. The good Lord has blessed us for a long time. We've given a bonus out, man, since I've been here 34 years, every year. And we had some tough years, but I mean, we've given, and some of these are, the last few years have been substantial amounts of money, but it's not so much the money to the employees. I feel like they're saying, you know what? They're putting their money where their mouth is and saying, we are important, because we do believe the fact that, nobody in this room can make this thing go. Nobody. It takes 566 people to make this thing go, so the biggest challenge is to make sure that everybody understands that. I think, I put in the letter, I may not see everybody. I may not talk to you all the time, but I hope everybody knows I'm always thinking about making decisions that are good for you. I mean, it may not be exactly good for you, but it is, in a big sense, it's always good for you. And that if we didn't have the value starting from Dad, I mean, I think you mentioned it earlier, maybe Tom or somebody, but it was, people make it go and always have. Dad understand from the very get-go, he has strengths and weaknesses, and he knew what he was weak at, and he put people in place. He's not a good salesman. He said one time, one customer, actually when he was selling the farm, the guy that ended up buying it, it's Tom Basor and his group he represented, but he came in and he was complaining to me about, Mike, man, when you sell me tractors, you take advantage of me, man. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you steal from me. He was just messing with me. He goes, you steal from me, man. You rob, you lie to me, man, when you're pricing these tractors. I said, Mr. Basor. I said, he goes, I won't call your dad. I said, Mr. Basor, listen, my dad does not lie. He does not cheat. He does not steal. He pays people to do that for him. And that's my job. And he knew I was kidding, but really there's some truth to the fact that my dad he's a giver, so all these situations he would probably overgive. And so he hired, Roger and WL. These guys were better at playing the game, to make sure the customer was happy, but that Everglades was taken care of, so that's always been good.
You guys also, when, from going from one dealership to 18, you've kept a lot of the people from these acquisitions on staff. I mean, if you look through our company today at 560 employees, a large portion of them, I would say a good percentage of them, are from the other dealerships.
Even in key positions.
Yeah.
Key corporate positions came from other dealerships, because it's not about, hey, it's what's best for this company. Whatever's best for this company.
A coaching move of don't get rid of people. Put the right person in the right spot so that they can excel. After you identify their weakness, put them where they can excel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't just start taking heads off, or you won't have an army.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the Tom Brady analogy. Put Tom Brady at right guard or right tackle and see how good he does in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you put him at quarterback and he did really good.
Bear Bryant said, give me your team and I'll beat you with your team.
Yeah. He said, I could take mine and beat yours, and take yours and beat mine. Well, I don't know if that's exactly true.
He was at Alabama.
Yeah, that's in times where unlimited scholarships, and he could, that's another story. Another podcast.
So I got
Winners write the history.
Yeah.
So I got some questions here, random questions for this crew, because you guys some at the bottom here. We'll have some funny questions. We'll do some serious questions, but here's one for you guys. If you could invent a new piece of agricultural equipment, what unique feature would it have? Anybody want to answer that question? Or was, you guys are from a farming family. Was there anything growing up you thought that would be cool to see on the farm, but it just never panned out?
I think tinted windows and a toilet built in a tractor would be nice.
That's solid. Well, we got the tinted windows now.
What are the tinted windows for?
So you can go to the bathroom. I mean, it could be like a fishbowl, but
No, we just put a toilet seat on this place.
Yeah.
It's easy.
That would be actually, the buddies.
the attachment. Like I feel out.
I mean, can I patent this thing now?
Man, you've never had such a great idea.
Don't tell you.
Anybody else? David, you got something there?
I think Tom nailed it. Tom nailed it. You sit in that tractor all day. It's one of those things like there's always things that you see other people do and you think are fun. And driving a tractor feels like that sometimes, that you look at someone else, you're like, man, that's pretty cool. They're in this tractor. You put it in gear and it takes off. You're like, man, this is awesome. But then after you sat in that thing for like 6 hours,
Yeah.
this wasn't so awesome after about an hour.
I got one story about that. I was one of our great sales guys at our Belglade location, Larry Gilmer. Shout out to Larry. Said, Bo, let's go to the farm. So he brought me to the farm one day and he's like, I'm gonna put you up in a sugarcane harvester. So he puts me up in the sugarcane harvester and I hop in this cab with a guy named Killer. And Killer, and he starts riding. I'm up in like the co-pilot seat with him. This guy busts out a cigar, lights it up, and smokes a full cigar with all the doors closed. All the doors closed. And I'm just like, we do about 6 passes, whatever we're doing. And I was like, dude, I got to get out of here, man.
You can't be sick.
But I just want to make everyone aware that, yeah, I don't know, but there's some funky stuff going on in those harvesters.
There's no ashtray.
No ashtray.
In that harvester.
That's right.
I think what you're alluding to, the automation's coming.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point, but it's going to be here. And labor's going to be tough, but it's going to transition into a more specialized labor. Because, with the automation, there comes more work.
Well, stay tuned because we actually, in one of our next 3 episodes, we have some of the smartest guys coming in the ag tech industry, and we're going to just totally dive into what's coming around the corner. So that's going to be a good one. Here's a question for you. Looking back, what's one decision in the business you would have made differently?
I would not have sold as much of the property in Loxahatchee.
Yeah.
I would have kept phase 2 that we had approved.
Yeah.
But at the time, we were talking about that depression and the debt. We thought that money in the bank against this other looks a lot better than that land sitting back there.
Well, they paid for that whole dealership.
Yes, they did.
Yes, it did.
that was
done.
debt-free.
Yeah, it's done.
Debt-free building.
Well, and those are things that always looking back, it's like the reasons we as a company made decisions at the time we made them were kind of sound for that moment. In a lot of cases, if you look back on it and think, man, that wasn't the best thing, but at the time there was different information.
Yeah, but you don't know how history is going to play out.
How it's all going to play out.
The economy turns a different way. And,
Because if you're looking at, you got this asset of land and you don't have any money in the bank and you're trying to pay employees and expand maybe into something else, and you really don't have another decision.
but coming from farming, we
Yeah.
understand the weather can change it at any point.
And sometimes it feels
So
like,
if he lives more like that, he's going to be able to pay.
well, where sometimes it feels like, could we have tightened the belt here or made a little different decision? Yeah, but knowing what you know now is a whole lot different.
Well, you do it every year with your inventory going.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want a 2-year-old inventory, but you've got
Or you're-
56 salesmen going, could we keep a few more tractors? Because I don't have anything to
It
sell.
always feels like you're rolling the dice in a more aggressive way because you want to have equipment. You don't want to turn someone away by we don't have it if you have an opportunity for someone to buy something from us. So but there has to be a balance there. You can't just have everything.
And how do you explain it to the customer that the tractor he bought last year for $214,000 is $345 12 months later?
Prices increase. And, one of the things that's always funny is Belglade, when they're ramping up for sugarcane season, there'll be 400 tractors on the lot in Belglade, and a customer will walk in and want to buy something. And you're like, sorry, I don't have anything.
Yeah, I got a checkbook. When you got a whole yard out there,
You don't have what?
for.
We can usually figure it out, but whenever you have obligations and those pieces of equipment are to fill those obligations, you don't have just something sitting there available. But it's weird when you look at that many things on a lot, like walking into a fully inventoried car dealer and they say, I'm sorry, I don't have any cars for you.
But
like,
as you say, you got obligations.
Yeah.
Those people's business plan is built around what you said you would do.
And they're the ones that have kind of been your ride or die. They've been with you for years, and they're your consistent and loyal employees. You got to take, or
Many of our
consistent,
customers,
loyal
people
customers.
we grew up with.
Yeah.
Here's a good question for you. To John, this is for John Schlechter, for Granddad, for y'all's dad. Name one time when you were growing up, when you look back, that you appreciate something, a memory with him or an interaction with him. Just anything that maybe you thought it might have helped you guys in y'all's careers today.
One thing, I think it's multiple. I mean, just if you look back and appreciate Everglades at 60 years old, that means he took over Everglades at 27. He was already farming at 22.
When he got out of college,
Purchased land. So he's got a lot already going on. There were probably more opportunities like that at the time. I mean, like to try to start a dealership today, tough.
Yeah.
But at 27, to be buying somebody out and taking over a business, which I don't know how many they sold, 3, 5.
To watch them, in the summertime they would take us to North Carolina, where they had bought 40 acres, and it was supposed to be vacation time. It was never vacation time. We'd always go up there and build something, walk in the mountains, putting in bridges. And Granddad he loved to clear land, loved to run chainsaws. Well, we were going to build something for our father's brother. And to watch the interaction between Granddad and our father about who was going to have the final say. But at the end of the day, somebody has to lead.
Yeah.
And someone has to decide, okay, we're going to do this and follow through this way the whole time.
Yeah.
Someone has to say, this is what we're going to do, and acquiesce. Whether it's Mike or Bill or me, somebody's got to have that idea and keep pushing through.
Right.
And watching Granddad do things, that dude never quit on anything. Mm-hmm. Watching my father do things, we got rained out in the celery beds one time doing transplanting for seed beds, so you couldn't get a tractor in there to plant. Well, we built out of PVC what they call an airplane rig and had 2-inch rubber hose, and me and Mike dragged the hose, and Dad pulled the reel to reel it in, and our guys carried it. Dad did that till he almost died or killed one of us, because by then we were dead too. But just to persevere, to push themselves to when they got nothing left.
For me, he would always say, that's actually made me think of it. He would always say something. I think my favorite granddadism was, he told me 100 times, he'd be like, Bo, I'm not the smartest in the room. I'm the most persistent. And he would say this over and over.
Well,
he loved to say that.
First off, by the way, when he says anything that he says, I'm not this, but in his mind, he really thinks the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
If he says, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but
I can add.
yeah, when he does that, he really thinks he is. And that, I mean, that's his way of saying it though. But no, y'all know this. What is this?
Read my lips.
And all of us have heard that multiple times.
Or when things are going bad and he says, you don't know what you look like until you get your picture taken, and you're like, what's that mean? You know, it's after a bad event. Yeah,
Or the golden rule.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, unique cliches, which is almost an oxymoron.
Yeah. Here's one. What's the most unusual customer request you've ever received? If y'all want me to start, I could start.
You should have asked.
When I first started,
when we came in.
When I first started, David made me go out to a special customer that I guess had been wearing on him for many days.
And the service department.
And he's probably going to listen to this podcast. Pedro Palma, how's it going? And he had me go out there to visit him. So I went to visit him, and Pedro walked me all around his 10-acre property, made me pet all of his animals. So that was probably one of the weirdest for me. Like, he wanted to give me a personal walk around his 10 acres.
I got one. So the strangest request I ever had from a customer. I got a call from an individual who was the manager of a Case dealership. He also worked for another company, but he managed the Case dealership because that company owned the Case dealership and farm. I get a call from him for me to bring a quote for John Deere tractors to him. So I took a quote for 50-something tractors into the front door of a Case dealership, walked into the general manager of the Case dealership's office and sat down and gave a quote for John Deere tractors.
That is pretty cool.
And we got the deal.
And still today.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So how strange is that?
One for me is not really as much of a request. Like Mike's is a situation and a request. It was just a situation where we had a customer that the time on the equipment was egregiously higher than what was agreed. And so the customer called this meeting to figure out what we were going to do. So it was a deal that was in conjunction with John Deere. So there's John Deere reps there. There's Everglades reps there. We go sit down at this conference table in a very nice office, very nice facility. And when we sit down, the guy walks in, who had called the meeting, and starts yelling at us, "Why are you here?" We're all sitting to the table like, well, because you asked us to come. And it kind of went south from there for a while, and then it kind of, we did end up with a resolution. But when a guy calls a meeting and you go sit down in his conference room and he walks in and starts yelling at you, "Why are you here?" That's a weird situation. And how do you recover from that?
Yeah.
So that was a strange one.
Can I do one more?
You got another one?
You made me think about it. We rented tractors to a guy in the Bahamas. He didn't pay us. So me and Adrian Puig we flew over there to repossess the tractors. So we go to this guy's farm, and we first off picked up a constable, a Bahamian constable, to go with us. And this is a big fella. He's a big fella. So we get in the truck, drive out there to the guy's farm, and we're talking to him, and we're in the shop, and he's kind of dancing around, so everybody's he's like making phone calls. So we're just kind of moseying around the shop, and the constable has kind of walked away, and the guy came to me, the Bahamian guy that we were renting the tractor. Said, "Hey, why don't you get in the truck with me, and you'll go back of the farm here to see this tractor." I said, "That ain't happening." You know what I said, "Just a minute. Let me go get my little friend here." And I went and got that constable, and all three of us rode back there. And I'll be honest, we ended up roundabout finding the tractor. So we drove the tractor to the port in the Bahamas, and we tell the lady, "Hey, the customs individual from the Bahamian customs saying, we're going to take this tractor, we're repoing it." She's okay, no problem. So we said, we're going to go eat lunch, because the boat, we weren't loading for another couple hours. So we go eat lunch. I was in Marsh Harbor, and we go eat lunch. I think Rosie's. We go eat lunch. Anyway, come back. And the lady, all of a sudden, now when we left, it was, hey, bond, all good. We come back, and she says, "That tractor is going nowhere." And we're like, "Whoa, what happened?" And again, when you're in another country, it's different. Yeah. So basically, somebody had called somebody, and that was the end of that tractor going anywhere. I mean, we ended up getting it back, but that was a fear for my life moment.
Yeah.
And another country lesson in life. It's another country, buddy. It don't work like the United States.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I've noticed a theme through the discussion on stories that involve self-preservation.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You're on the side
When
of sure.
when it's me or anything, I like me.
Well, I think really that's all we got for these. It says the name of a memory, but I think you guys did a pretty good job talking about a bunch of memories. So, Tony, what else we got? Is there anything else?
I think that's about it. But that's solid.
Yeah.
Solid episode right there.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.